Superheroes. Everybody loves them, but one thing people love more than superheroes is debating which ones could beat who in a fight. Well, thanks to Injustice Gods Among Us and Injustice 2, we don't have to imagine it anymore. Hi, I'm Darrian P. Mack with the Leaderboard, and we're here to take a look at a game that lets you finally have that dream bout between Solomon Grundy and Sub-Zero. So equip your batterangs and stock up on kryptonite, because we're going to let you in on 107 facts about Injustice 2. Let's get started. Injustice 2 is a superpowered fighting game and sequel to Injustice Gods Among Us, which takes place in an alternate DC comic universe. The game was released in North America on May 16, 2017 on Xbox One and PS4. Injustice 2 was announced on June 8, 2016. This came a day after the existence of the game was leaked through a GameStop poster featuring powered armor-clad Batman and Flash about to face off with the words Injustice 2, every battle defines you. Injustice 2 had a short month-long beta starting in January of 2017. There were only a handful of characters available to try, but nobody seemed to mind considering it was free. The game is developed by NetherRealm, who created the first Injustice game and 2 Mortal Kombat games. The co-creator of the original Mortal Kombat, Ed Boon, was the creative director for Injustice 2. After making a modern-day reboot of Mortal Kombat, the team wanted to make a fighting game that was very different from existing games in the genre, hence they came up with the first Injustice. Ed Boon said that the goals for the sequel were to do things that were unexpected and long-term. He also wanted the game to incorporate design systems from modern multiplayer shooters like Destiny. This meant personalization, creating your own characters, finding loot, and leveling up. The first Injustice takes place in an alternate universe where Superman became a tyrant in order to achieve world peace. Boone said DC has this great infinite multi-universe concept that allows us to do really creative stuff and it doesn't break the DC lore. While Injustice focused on a multi-universe conflict, Injustice 2 will be set entirely in the Injustice universe in which Superman took over the world. That said, Injustice 2 follows the story of Batman and his allies trying to put the world back together as other factions try to take power for themselves. This includes a group called the Society, led by none other than Gorilla Grodd. The biggest challenge for the developers in making this story was to extend the narrative without repeating the same old thing, but still keeping the Superman vs. Batman focus. They got around this by introducing Brainiac as the ultimate villain. As the looming threat in the new Injustice, Brainiac is a Borg-like being intent on obtaining knowledge and power, as well as sometimes shrinking down cities and stealing them. You know, regular supervillain stuff. Boone saw how other fighting games had bare-bones stories and wanted to do the opposite, and so made the Injustice story a focus. We hired professional actors and everything to play the roles of these characters. We try to tell as elaborate of a story as possible. We want to try to tell something as close to this great cinematic experience where you participate in the fights. NetherRealm teamed up with DC writers Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti to make sure Injustice felt like it was true to the DC Comics brand. The idea for a fighting game with RPG-like progression has been in talks at the studio ever since before Midway, Mortal Kombat's original publisher, closed its doors. Because of how well the original Injustice game did, NetherRealm earned the trust of Warner Brothers and DC Comics to make this idea a reality. NetherRealm collaborated with DC through every step of the game's development. DC helped out with everything from designing the game to putting together characters to coming up with ideas for the story. NetherRealm even sent DC builds of the game to play and receive feedback from the company on how to improve it. Every step of the game had to be approved by DC. It's a good thing NetherRealm had such a good relationship with them. DC rarely said no to any of NetherRealm's suggestions. In Injustice 1, NetherRealm introduced the elements of Clash and Super Moves. Those were then expanded upon in Mortal Kombat X. Now with Injustice 2, they've improved and expanded even more to give the player more options and customization in their fighting experience. Most of NetherRealm's games run on a modified version of the Unreal Engine, which since Mortal Kombat X has been further modified and upgraded with better rendering, better dynamic lighting, and an ability to have more objects on screen at once, making Injustice 2 the best looking game they've ever released. Not to mention, the graphics and performance have come a long way. The game will run at 1080p at 60 frames per second, so you won't miss a single detail when Wonder Woman is strangling Batman to death. The trait system from the previous game is back. Characters will get a once per match boost based on their fighting style that will help them in battle. One of the new traits allows Atrocitus to summon Dax Star. Supergirl has a trait that gives her multi-directional laser eye beams. Some of the formula has been tweaked though. Now you can block damage from intractable objects on different different levels. You can also spin a bar of your meteor to flip out of a jungle combo early. Have you put way too many hours into the first Injustice game and are worried that control changes are going to throw you off your groove? Fear not, because Injustice 2 will keep the same control scheme and inputs from Injustice Gods Among Us. In the early stages of designing the game, everything was up for debate. Even something as simple as whether or not the game needed to have blocking was up in the air. The developers looked at what they absolutely needed to have and built up from there. NetherRealm wanted to take things to the next level for the sequel and make the experience more personal, so they added new gameplay mechanics like equipable gear to customize characters to your fighting style. They called this system of using gear, you guessed it, the gear system. NetherRealm explained the personalization aspect, saying, as you gear up your character, you're building a roster of DC superheroes and supervillains that reflects your choices and your preferences, which can be vastly different than your opponents. A few play sessions in, you can expect your Aquaman to look and play different than anyone else's Aquaman you may come across. Due to the gear system, the player gets pieces of equipment that they can add into their characters to boost certain stats or give special abilities after every match. One example is a gear that increases your damage output when your life bar is low. There's more than one way to get gear. Yes, you can get it randomly at the end of a match, earn it in certain single player modes, or you can get gear out of mother boxes, which serve as loot chests and can be purchased with in-game currency. Each character has access to about 1,000 pieces of gear. That is a lot of customization. The gear system also changes how the characters look. So after a while, you'll have your very own one-of-a-kind Justice League that not only plays differently, but has a different appearance from everyone else's too. In addition to changing your stats and looks, the gear system can also change animations and visual effects as well, meaning really dope sparkles and hopefully some glow-in-the-dark stuff. Another type of gear called shaders allows even further customization, letting players change the color palettes of a character. You can change the colors of the costume, their skin tone, and even particle effects to be tweaked to perfection. The last type of gear, known as abilities, are, put simply, fighting abilities. Each either adds a new move or modifies an already existing one. So while playing online, you really won't have any way of knowing how someone else's version of a character is going to play until you start the match. There's also gear sets, meaning there are groups of 2 or more pieces of gear that when worn together give an additional effect like a large range of attack. The gear system also made the game more accessible. It allows more casual players to start off with an easy to play character and gradually build them over many weeks to their own individual specifications, like templates that can be customized. Some pieces of gear have what NetherRealm calls an X stat. Instead of modifying a stat, it changes the way a move works. Batman has a set of gauntlets to let him throw 3 batarangs at once instead of just 1. Characters won't wear gear during the story mode because NetherRealm wanted specific costumes for the story in order to tell it right. You'll still earn gear by playing through, you've just gotta show your fashion off somewhere else. It's pretty hard to keep the game balanced when you can add loot to your characters, so NetherRealm took a page from the design of mobile games, where a system like this is more common. To make sure they wouldn't inadvertently make any overpowered gear combinations, NetherRealm brought in a team of people whose only job was to make sure everything was properly balanced. Plus, since something like gear systems is rarely used in fighting games, NetherRealm also brought in experts in such systems to make sure everything was in top shape and worked out. If you're the kind of person who's into the competitive side of games, don't worry. There's a tournament mode that puts all the characters at a balanced base level with no little doodads and trinkets hanging off your Batman. When news of the gear system came out, people were concerned that it was introduced so that the game could include microtransactions. Fear not, NetherRealm says there is no way in the game for you to use real money to buy any gear items. They didn't want Injustice 2 to become a pay-to-win game. I'm gonna put the caution out there, the game will include some microtransactions. Real-world money can be used to purchase source crystals, the game's currency. What can you use source crystals for? They can be used to buy cosmetic adjustments, including premier skins, new shaders, and the ability to make a piece of gear look like another piece of gear while retaining its stats. Ever feel like you just couldn't get close enough to your opponent in the first Injustice games? Then you'll love the new evasive roll move. By spending 1 meter segment, you can turn your forward dash into a far-reaching roll. During the roll, you're invincible to hits, allowing you to push your way through projectile attacks used to keep you at bay. There's also a lot more to spend on your meter. Super moves, push blocks, clashes, there's a lot more to spend on your meter. In the first Injustice game, the quickest way to build up your meter was to take damage. In the new game, the system for building up your meter is a lot more varied. NetherRealm said some special moves might gain more or less meter when performed on a hit or when blocked. Injustice 2 gets some of the lead out of your character's feet. Walking speed is a lot faster for all characters compared to the previous games. This was done to speed up the pace of the match and also to make strategies that involve controlling space on the board more viable. In the first Injustice game, just about every special move got some kind of invulnerability when it was done as a wake-up. Injustice 2 changes that system up a little bit. Most characters only have 1 to 2 moves that are invulnerable on wake-up, and several factors contribute to that choice. The move's recovery, whether it's a combo starter, can it be metered burned, etc. NetherRealm also explained that generally, moves that have invulnerability on wake-up have it for the startup frames of the attack, but there are some exceptions. Players can also wake up backdash or delay their wake up altogether. Each character has 4 stats: strength, defense, health, and ability. You can figure out what the first 3 are for. The ability stat affects your character's special attacks. There are 3 versions of the game available for purchase. The first is the standard edition that only includes the base game, a regular purchase as it were. The second is the digital deluxe edition, which includes 3 DLC fighters, the Power Girl premiere skin, and 1 exclusive gear shader pack. The last version is the Ultimate Edition, which comes with 9 DLC fighters, premiere skins for Reverse Flash, Green Lantern, and Power Girl, with not 1 but 2 exclusive gear shader packs. NetherRealm said that they wanted to take a more aggressive approach to DLC. The company has been including more DLC characters in each game ever since the 4 from Mortal Kombat. They're now increasing the number of DLC characters by 2 in each game, meaning that the Injustice 2 can be expected to have at least 10 DLC characters. We hope so. The first 3 DLC fighters for Injustice 2 will be Starfire, Sub-Zero, and Red Hood. In the trailer revealing them, you can see silhouettes of other characters, possibly future DLC fighters behind them. The ones sticking out the most are Raiden and Black Manta. Wait. Sub-Zero? That's a Mortal Kombat character, not a DC character. What's going on? Well, Injustice fans really love Mortal Kombat. In the first game, Scorpio was the #1 downloaded DLC fighter. Injustice 2 is just keeping with that trend of bringing in a character unfamiliar with the DC universe into the heat of the battle. In fact, in the first Injustice game, Scorpio's trailer showed him about to perform a fatality on Sub-Zero before being teleported into the Injustice universe. Could this be revenge? Not to mention that both Scorpio in Injustice and Sub-Zero in Injustice 2 were designed by Jim Lee, and they look great! The base game includes 32 characters. New to the game are Supergirl, Atrocitus, Gorilla Grodd, Deadshot, Blue Beetle, Poison Ivy, Swamp Thing, Cheetah, Dr. Fate, Black Canary, Firestorm, Captain Cold, Brainiac, Darkseid, Scarecrow, Starfire, Red Hood, and Sub-Zero. Another new playable character in this game is Robin. Which Robin? Batman's only biological son, the one that truly matters, Damian Wayne. Number 62. However, the other former Robins have appeared in the Injustice franchise. While the first game featured Dick Grayson as Nightwing, Injustice 2 will feature Jason Todd as Red Hood. Injustice 2's Robin isn't siding with Daddy though. Damian has rejected his father and instead looks to Superman for leadership. He sees Superman as more of a father than Batman. Returning characters are Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Bane, Catwoman, Cyborg, Green Arrow, Black Adam, Harley Quinn, and Joker. Characters who didn't make the cut for a comeback are Ares, Batgirl, Cyborg, Superman, Deathstroke, Doomsday, General Zod, Hawkgirl, Killer Frost, Lobo, Lex Luthor, Martian Manhunter, Nightwing, Raven, Scorpio, Shazam, Sinestro, Solomon Grundy, and Zatanna. Although Joker died in the first Injustice game, he's somehow still around as a playable character in Injustice 2. Some days you just can't get rid of a clown. Oh, and the Green Arrow in this game doesn't come from the Injustice universe. The Green Arrow from the Injustice universe died sacrificing his life to fight against Superman's regime. This Green Arrow comes from the other Earth and is fighting to honor his fallen alternate self. Darkseid is available as a playable character, but only if you pre-ordered the game. He originally made his debut in the franchise as a playable character in the mobile game. The game also gives you some additional characters through alternate skins. Just apply these skins and Supergirl becomes Power Girl, Jon Stewart's Green Lantern becomes Hal Jordan's, and the Flash becomes Reverse Flash. Another premier skin promised to come in the future is one for Mr. Freeze. Some gear for Captain Cold will turn him into Mr. Freeze since, you know, they're both a little chilly. Can't get enough DC heroes? That's great, because Injustice 2 has the highest number of playable DC heroes in the history of all fighting games based on the company's property. The character roster is determined by looking at who best fits the story that the team wants to tell, and also what feedback NetherRealm has gotten from the audience. See, you do have a voice. Kevin Conroy returns to voice Batman, who many see as the definitive voice voice for the Batman, since he's voiced the Cape Crusader in Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Doom, most of the Arkham games, Justice League Action, Batman the Killing Joke, and many, many, many more. Will he be in a live-action movie? Let's hope so. Superman is also voiced by a mainstay to the character, George Newbern. Tara Strong returns to her role as Harley Quinn, and Green Arrow is again voiced by Alan Tudyk. The Robin in this game might not be Dick Grayson, but he's closer than you think. Robin in the game is played by Scott Porter, who also voiced Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, and Batman Arkham Knight. Well, Jeffrey Combs is voicing Brainiac. It seems that wasn't always the case. In one of the trailers, D. Bradley Barker voiced the Mastermind. NetherRealm designed the game so that people would play the same character for weeks. They felt like the usual training modes of fighting games weren't enough to train people to learn the game. So having them gradually learn more and more about the character through lots of experiences would work better. There were 3 main factions in Injustice 2, Superman's team, Batman's team, and Gorilla Grodd's society. There are also plenty of wildcard characters like Swamp Thing and Supergirl, who don't necessarily hold allegiances to any of the warring groups. At least 3 arenas from the first game will make a return: Atlantis, Gotham City, and Metropolis. That's not to say it's a copy and paste job. Each level has something to make it an all-new experience, like new secondary stage transitions, new locations within the arenas, basically meaning more places to punch people in. The Metropolis level has the new addition of the Ace of Clubs bar, which is a reference only the biggest of Superman fans would get. Appropriately enough, it's a bar ran by the retired boxer who's also one of Superman's biggest fans in the comics. Alongside the release of Injustice 2 is the announcement of the Injustice 2 Championship Series, an esports program by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. On May 6, 2017, Warner Bros. Announced this series will consist of a 4-month-long online and offline circuit of competitions, with the finals taking place in Los Angeles. Qualifying tournaments will be held all over the world, so everyone has a shot. Players from North America, Europe, and Latin America will all have the chance to compete for a portion of the $600,000 prize pool. The tournament includes the Injustice 2 Pro Series, which is international, the GameStop Hometown Heroes Tournament in the US, the Path to Pro Tournament in Europe, and the Liga Latina, which takes place in Argentina, Chile, Mexico, and Peru. The top players from each tournament will face off in the Championship Series Grand Finals. The Injustice 2 multiplayer mode will use the same netcode as Mortal Kombat X. The online multiplayer system introduced a rollback system that improved play experience by looking at actions taken by the players and making sure the data sent is correct. The system is liked among the fighting game community because of how it improves online connection. Guild members can also collaborate to win and climb leaderboards, the leaderboard, and daily and weekly cooperative objectives. NetherRealm designed the game to appeal to both hardcore and casual audiences. A hardcore audience can enjoy creating new strategies and fighting styles for the different characters. Meanwhile, casual players will love being able to play with the visual customizations. Injustice 2 will feature the Multiverse mode. This is similar to Mortal Kombat X Living Tower mode. The mode lets players travel to parallel worlds to battle alternate versions of heroes and villains with different handicaps, stipulations, and goals. Winning will give you access to a lot of new loot. Ed Boon was excited at the opportunity to put in some more obscure characters with Injustice 2. He said there are some fans that were particularly vocal about what characters they wanted in this second game, and he made sure to listen. So because a lot of fans asked to see Blue Beetle in the first game, the team finally obliged and brought him into Injustice 2. Are you guys ready to play as him? Cause he's awesome. Ed Boon ran a poll of potential guest stars that could appear in Injustice 2. It was won by Spawn. Oh yeah, we can't wait to see him in whatever context he shows up. Green Arrow, true to his name, originally had 3 types of arrows he could fire off in the first game: fire, ice, and electric. For Injustice 2, however, a 4th type of arrow was created, the boxing glove arrow. Like something out of a Looney Tunes gag, it's literally just an arrow with a big green boxing glove on the front. But the real question on everyone's mind is, if all the heroes in the DC universe had Injustice-style one-on-one fights, who would be the last one standing? According to Tom Taylor, author of the comics, it's Plastic Man. But no one would know he's still standing because he'll be disguised as a lamppost. Get it? Comment down below and let us know how corny that joke was. Up to launch, the NetherRealm would try to host weekly live streams of Injustice 2 on their Twitch channel to tease the game. It was a great way to bring the community together and entice fans with what was to come. Just like with the original Injustice, there will be a companion mobile app for Injustice 2. While it's mostly the same aside from the improvements, there are also some minor changes to the gameplay, with there being one one large stamina meter for the player instead of having meters for each character in your team. By completing some challenges in the mobile game, you get to unlock gear in the console version. Now you'll really want to double the fun and play both. Once you start playing the mobile version, you might not want to stop. The app has login bonuses, daily objectives and achievements. These reward you with experience, premium gems, and hero shards. These can be used to earn gear, unlock new characters, or level up the ones you already have. The mobile app was released for iOS and Android on May 11, 2017. The mobile game had a soft launch in the Philippines in February of 2017. That's 3 months before the game was available in America. The Philippines get all the good stuff. On the same day the game was released, the Injustice 2 soundtrack will be available. It has 16 tracks of score from the game. Christopher Drake, who worked on DC animated films including Batman and Justice League Doom, is the lead composer. DC launched an Injustice 2 comic series to tie in with the video game. The series is written by Tom Taylor, who wrote the comic tie-in for the previous Injustice game. The series was originally released in weekly digital chapters. Injustice 2 takes place 2 years after the end of the previous game. The comic series details what happened between the two games. It follows Batman trying to put the world back together after locking up Superman in prison. Taylor says the bleak world of Injustice wasn't unavoidable. If either had been able to compromise at the beginning, maybe everything wouldn't have gone off the rails. If Bruce had stood with Clark and accepted him after Joker's death, maybe the world could have changed for the better with both of them working together. If Superman had accepted he's done the wrong thing, I think Batman would have done anything to help him. The story in the comic isn't just limited to the game. The comic is full of characters, battles, conflicts, losses that don't make it into the actual gameplay. Taylor believes that even though much of the story will never leave the pages and make it into the console, the game's story is stronger from what goes on in the comics. Want to put the Injustice comic on your shelf right next to your game? You can, because physical versions of the comic started going on sale May 3rd. Enjoy reading up during those loading scenes. Once again, I'm Darrian P. Mack. Thanks for watching 107 Facts about Injustice 2. Have you played it? Did we miss anything? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of the notification squad. And if you like getting more from your games, make sure you subscribe to Leaderboard, where we help you game smarter.